Jake Lever,
Beautiful.
welcome to the Virtus podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm actually looking forward to this.
Good to have you here. We've wanted to get you on since you first walked into our facility, I think after the 2021 Premiership with you and 6 of your Premiership teammates.
Yep.
Ever since then, we've wanted to get you on, so we appreciate you coming and, taking your time.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I love this place. To be honest, it's every time I drive into the car park, it's a bit of my sanctuary. I like to, I love training, obviously. I'm a bit of a footy nuff, but also I just love the physical side of the game. So in terms of training, I hate going into the club in the off season. It's actually one of my pet hates. And I think the physio and the strength and conditioning, staff, they know that, because when they ask me to see me in the off seasons, it's usually a flat out no. I just tell them that I'm there for 9 months of the year, so you can see me then. But they normally have to come and try and find me from somewhere like this, because I absolutely love this place, and I love going to other gyms and seeing what they provide, and it's just a different atmosphere rather than being at the footy club all the time.
Thanks for the pump up. I didn't even have to bait you there, just straight into it.
Yeah,
what's been your favourite thing about training at Virtus?
Favourite thing? It's funny because a lot of footballers talk about, having a gym at home and post footy, what are you going to do? You're going to try and set up a gym at your house and all that. And ever since I've come here, I've always said that, I just want to be at the local gym with that community feel. And every time I walk in, it's funny. Every time I walk in, I've got my AirPods and I never, ever put them in. Like I walk in and think to myself, I've got to really focus today and put them in. And it's always like, I get chatting to someone and then it's like a 20-minute conversation, and then I might, start talking to Lockie or you or someone else. And it's like, it's amazing how much like a 45-minute gym session almost takes me an hour and a half to do when I'm here. But I actually love that part of it, because I think sometimes as a footballer, especially me, when I talk to people, I would say out in the wild, out in the community, I sort of always am a little bit reserved on potentially like what they want from me, and it's a really bad habit that I've got.
What do you mean by that?
It's almost like I go into the conversation and I guess they know who I am, and then potentially it might be, can I get a signed footy jumper? Can I get that? And it's like, it's probably not, like it probably happened to me once in 100 times, but ever since that moment, it's like you're always a little bit reserved, and you never want to put your foot in anything. So when someone asks you almost a controversial question, you're always a little bit more reserved on what you want to say. But as I said, when I come here, it's like I'm just, Jake Lever, the person. It's never about footy when I come here as well. Like it might be a little bit about training, but then it's, how are my kids? What am I doing? Chatting to some of the other people that work out here. It's always about, what they're doing for work, what I want to do after footy. Like it's actually quite amazing that it hasn't really been, as something that I've said to you guys that I don't want to talk about footy. It's just sort of happened naturally, and it's definitely something that I love doing. Yeah,
we've appreciated you having you, and I'm sure our members have appreciated having you and your presence in the gym. Is it good to be back playing footy? Like you've had a few weeks off?
Yes. No, absolutely. So, I was pretty lucky this pre-season. To be honest, last year, you go back to the 2021 season, that was obviously an amazing experience. And then I never thought I'd be like this, but almost, in the off-season of 2021, going into the 2022 season, it was actually really hard to train. I guess as an individual athlete, as yourself, you have these goals of what you want to achieve in your career. And for me, as a team, like I just wanted to win a premiership. That is number one focus on any, like it doesn't matter if you're talking to a first year player or, someone that's been at the footy club for 15, 20 years. Like it's about winning a premiership, but then you've also got your individual stuff that you want to achieve in your career. And for me, like I just thought to myself, I just want to be an All-Australian Premiership backman. And I felt like I had the capabilities to do that. And it's funny that in 2021, I'd literally achieved all those things. And I probably just didn't have the motivation that I normally would have. And it's funny, it's the first time, that I've ever experienced it in terms of you go to training after, 2 weeks after the grand final and you've won, and you love that feeling of winning the grand final, but you go, oh God, like, what more do I have? Like I've done what
you've ticked it off.
I've ticked it off. And it's funny, like, not until it's almost like you play your first bad game after the grand final as an individual or as a team until you go, oh God, like, how good is winning? So yeah, it's funny. Like, I go back to those days of like coming in. I didn't really have much motivation, but in terms of the gym and everything, like, it is a little bit of a sanctuary for me, and I do enjoy getting away from footy, and this place definitely provides me with that.
Yeah, I love it. Like, do you almost forget how hard they are to win now that you have been at the top?
Yeah. Yes, that was the big reflection last year. You win it, and then you come back, and then we're 10-0. And we're probably not playing great footy as a team. We're sort of just playing well, and you could sense sort of the feeling of, when are we going to click into gear? We've got another level to go. When can we play better? When are we going to play better? And it's funny because I reflect on that time, and I think it was a massive missed opportunity for us as players, and me sort of being a leader of the footy club. I just don't think we realised how hard it was to win. And not every week you have to be this dominant side that, absolutely flogs everyone, and, we should win by 50, 60, 70 points every week. Because reflecting back to the 2021, the 3 finals that we played against Brisbane, Geelong and Bulldogs were probably the best 3 games that a side has ever played in a row. Like, it was
huge.
It was like Brisbane, we'd beaten by 40 points, but we should have beaten them by more. Like, we just couldn't score that night. And then the Geelong game was
Maxi took the piss.
Yeah, Maxi was, he was kicking goals, playing on, snapping them from the boundary in the ruck. Like, it was outrageous. And then the grand final, obviously there was ebbs and flows in the game, but from, it would have been 10 minutes into the third quarter, like, I don't even know I think it was like 96-4 or something that we'd scored. Like, it was crazy. And you reflect on that and you go, that's how we have to play all the time now. And then you get, as I said, 10 rounds into the season, you're 10-0. And if you had told me that we were 10-0 at the start of the year, you would have been like, oh, wow. Like,
how
absolutely
is this?
Here. Yep, absolutely. Give us 10-0. But you could sense around the footy club that it was almost like, it almost felt like a 5-5 team. Like, you're like, we're there, but we're not playing our best footy. But I just thought it was a massive missed opportunity. And we talk about it a lot, that it is so hard to win in AFL footy now. When I first got into the league I think my first year was 2015, there was honestly some games where you were like, we're going to win, but it just depends on how much. Like, when I was at Adelaide, like, we were a pretty good side when I first rocked up, and it was like, if you went and played, like, when we played Gold Coast when they first started to come in, it was like, we're either going to win by like 40, maybe 80, and if we play really well, we'll win by 100. So, but like, there is nothing like that anymore. Like, it doesn't matter if you play like the bottom sides now, like North Melbourne, West Coast, Hawthorn, like, on their day, they play some genuinely good footy. And if you're 5-10% off, like, they can actually like roll you, and you're like, wow. So every week's so challenging. So as I said, like, I think last year we just didn't take, I think about my individual mindset of like not being able to get motivated and that, and a lot of people might have been like that. There's definitely some guys that just love playing footy all the time, and they can find that internal motivation, and they want to be great, and so do I. But it was funny that it sort of then filtered into the season of not actually taking those 10 wins that we had in a row for what they were, and they were tough, hard wins. And then I think that's where it sort of, our season did derail a little bit last year.
Where did you find the motivation from then this year? What made you pick it back up?
Yeah, I think it's failure.
Yep.
Like, you see all these amazing quotes about failing and how it, drives success, and you sort of read and you go, oh yeah, but it's not until you actually do. And obviously going out in straight sets was super disappointing. But it's funny, like my body wasn't holding up last year like how I wanted it to. And it started from pre-season. I had a little bit of plantar fasciitis, which, to be honest, I think it was like the week before we went back. And it was like, you know, I wake up in the morning, it was a bit sore and I'd limp around for a bit. Through. But like as a footballer, like it's not like I wake up every day and bounce out of bed. Like I'm sore, I'm stiff, like my back's sore, legs sore, foot sore, whatever it is. But this was sort of just hanging around, and I ended up snapping it like literally 3 days before round one. So like I was, you know, trying to persist with it over pre-season, and it'd sort of be like Monday would be all right, Wednesday no good, Friday all right, and then like it would be the opposite next week. Like it was just very tricky. And I ended up snapping it like 3 days before round one, which in the short term...
This is 2023?
This is 2022.
I got ya. Yep.
2022. And which short term, terrible thing. Like I can't walk like that. And it was funny, like they tried to get me up for round one like 3 days after snapping it, and they were like, we did the captain's run, which is the day before the game session, and they were like, oh, all right, we'll just get you to start. And like I did an A skip, and I couldn't do an A skip. Like I'm like, oh, I can't play. Like, so I ended up having like a couple of weeks off, and then just the whole season like was sort of, just I was chasing my tail a lot. I end up having a stress fracture in my foot for the last 6 weeks trying to play. And I was okay. Like I was out there, and I'm sort of the thought that once you cross the white line, you're 100% fit, you're ready to go. But it's funny when there's a number of your teammates that are in a similar boat to you. It's too hard to win, especially in finals. So, as I said, failing, coming back that pre-season, it's funny, like after the grand final, I had 2 weeks off running, and probably a week of that I was still at the gym, like week of celebrations. And I got back to Melbourne, obviously because it was in Perth, and, you know, I was already at the gym, like doing stuff, but it was sort of like I was forcing myself to do that. And I remember this pre-season, so obviously we went out in the second week of finals, and I promised myself, I said, I'm not going to do anything for 4 weeks. Go to the gym in like the 3rd to 4th week. But that was genuinely just to make myself feel a little bit better.
Well, that's funny, because I remember that's a conversation we had after the 2021 Premiership. No, sorry, in 2022, that you reckon you come back too early from that Premiership.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and that was definitely the feeling of it. Like pre-season, it's funny. The AFL these days, the industry, it's like the further you go in finals, you still come back the same time. So, you know, guys that don't play finals, they come back the same time as the team that played in the grand final. So it's like 6 weeks, potentially different holidays. But as like, there's only one winner. So like if you are runners-up in the grand final, you're coming back the same time as the team that finished 18th. You've had 6 weeks less break, I would say. And still, you're probably expected, because you've been runners-up, you're expected by the club and even like from your teammates, like to come back in pretty good condition because you're ready to go. And I think that's where we probably, you know, I don't think we stuffed up in terms of the footy club getting blokes back early, but like you could see the motivation was to do it again. But it was funny, like I think we peaked a little bit too early, and then it was like, God, halfway through the year, like I'm just knackered, cooked. Like mentally as well. That's probably the one thing that I've been working so hard at for probably a year and a half now, ever since last year, that physically, like my recovery, you know, most weeks you're going to get up and play. Like unless you hurt yourself, like your body naturally just adapts to being sore post-game and then slowly over the week building up to the game day.
Better and better, yep.
But mentally, like I don't think enough players really worked out that, oh God, like you almost need to move on from that game so quickly and then actually come out, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's, you know, doing whatever helps you. But being the best team from the year before, it's funny, like every team's hunting you. So that was probably the thing that mentally we weren't able to really deal with as a footy club, especially like back half of the year. But yeah, it's funny, like the way that, the footy club was able to do what we did in 2021 and then 2022, the difference, it's funny, like the motivation now this year is purely based on the failure and knowing where we can actually get to.
Yeah, good. What sort of changes have been made to sort of help you and the other players sort of mentally rejuvenate and prepare for what's to come?
Yeah, good question. I think probably just having more of an awareness of it. We normally talk about, as being at the footy club, there's so many people doing jobs that I guess even potentially from the outside you don't see, whether it's our high performance staff, whether it's our football, admin people working out the schedule where we're going to be and everything like that. And it's funny, like we break it down basically to like 5 day, 6 day, 7 day, 8 day breaks. And potentially every now and then you get a 9 day break if you play on a Friday and then play the Sunday. Like that's probably the most the rarest. But I think it's like it actually goes way more than that now. Like whether it's a travel, giving more time off to guys at home because we've got guys now. I think we've got like 6 or 7 guys that have families. And when you go traveling and then you come back, it's a lot of pressure on your partner, your family.
Do they get to come with?
They do sometimes. I'm a little bit, I don't know if it's old school, but it's a real performance trip when you go away. And I never sort of, my wife's amazing. Like, if we went away, she'd most likely stay in a different hotel with the kids. Like we're pretty, like she's pretty respectful of what you sort of go there to do. But as much as that, like the footy club, we try and spend as little time sort of away as possible. So you don't really have a lot of free time. Sort of you fly over there in the morning, you train, you have like meetings in the afternoon, you do your recovery, that sort of stuff that you normally do. And then the next day is game day, and sort of game day for everyone's different. You don't really want to compromise that with, chasing your kids around the beach at, in the Gold Coast or, catching up with people that I used to, be friends with in Adelaide. Like you've actually got to sort of stay focusing on the game. So, my wife comes to, and the kids come to, maybe 1 or 2 away games a year, because it is good experience. Like, and I guess like when I finally do retire, I'll probably look back and, if I don't take the kids to any away trips, I'll be like, oh, that's a big missed opportunity. But, yeah, as much as I love, spending my time with them, it is sort of pretty, it's pretty intense when you're on an away trip because you're sort of around everyone. And I'm also of the impression, and I think that it's actually a really good time to bond with your teammates without that, because at the footy club, you're there, and again, talk about the mental side of the game, you're there for like very minimal time.
At the club?
At the club. Yeah, okay. Like it's during the year, it's, pre-season, you're there all the time, running and weights and whatever it is. And during the year, it's more about, recovery, meetings, and then obviously the still the training side of things, because I think it's important to still train, but you sort of then go home and spend time with your family. Like we get, if it's a Saturday to Saturday game, we're sort of Sunday off, which has been a change from the footy club, not doing a scheduled recovery, because I think that blokes are pretty meticulous with their recovery now. It's not like, blokes don't know what to do. Like everyone knows what to do. So that Sunday sort of to rejuvenate, spend time with family, get a sleep in if you can, that sort of stuff. And then Monday we're only there for half a day. Tuesday's the exact same half a day. Wednesday's our big day, our main training day. And then Thursday we've got off. Friday we're there for 3 hours, and then Saturday's game day. So you can see there's a lot of time off. It's just about how you actually educate players to spend that, to be able to then mentally recover, because if you just sit there playing PlayStation, it doesn't actually work.
Shit, no.
So, it's funny. Like it's just about giving guys tools to be able to use that mental recovery, because it is such an important part.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think myself, and I know a lot of other people probably would have held the assumption that it's actually the opposite during the season, that you're there all the time. Yep. And that was going to sort of lead into my next question, sort of how do you balance that with being a father and a parent and a husband to Jess? Yeah,
I think it's funny. Like as I said, like you get a lot of time away from the footy club. And talk about before, like meticulous with my recovery. I'm fascinated by recovery. Like, I absolutely love it.
We know you spend a good amount of time with our friends, the Private Sea.
Yes, so I'm at the Private Sea. I love the float tank there.
Yeah.
Before the game, bit of magnesium in the water and just an hour to myself. So I love the float tank. I've just purchased it. I won't say the amount because it was pretty expensive. A sauna at my own home.
These boys have saunas now.
Yeah, so me and Maxie actually got the same company. So they're drip saunas. I think actually Ed Langdon's onto them now.
Is that infrared or like hot stone?
Nah, hot stone.
Yeah, good.
Hot stone. So the traditional Finnish sauna, I think they're called. So, and I just purchased I actually purchased a chest freezer and turned it into an ice bath.
Love it.
Yep. So I'm into that, and then I've got the cold shower outside. Like I love my recovery. So it's funny. Like, as much as I'm away from the footy club, like even this morning, like we didn't start till 9 o'clock this morning at Casey Field. So it's probably 40-minute drive for me, 35 minutes on a good day. And this morning, like, I set my sauna's quite fancy. You can set it on your phone when to turn it on. Yeah, I know it is pretty fancy. So I turned it on at 5:30 this morning. Got up, did a sauna at 7 o'clock this morning. Did an ice bath, like did all that. So as much as you are away from the footy club, like you're still spending time on your recovery and everything like that. But talk about balance. It's funny. I actually question myself now, what the hell was I doing before I was a father in my spare time? Because right now it's like I get home from the footy club and I love spending time with my kids and playing with them and trying to get them outdoors as much as possible, that because I grew up in Romsey and my whole life I was outside. I love my PlayStation. I was great at AFL Live 2007.
Yeah,
like I was
classic.
a gun. But I spent a lot of time kicking the footy outside, loving spending, my house had goalposts and, we had a cricket net. Like there was a lot of stuff. Like I was on 15 acres. So I tried and spend that time outside with the kids as well because I wanted to give them that exposure that I had because I really enjoyed the outdoors. And now it's like I get to like 7:30 and the kids are in bed. And I'm like, just take a breath. I'm like, oh, all right, now I can relax for like an hour and a half. And me and my wife, we sort of like watching TV shows and we try and watch the same ones because it's a good topic of conversation.
Bonding.
It's bonding. So yeah, it's funny, like that balance. I think my kids just give me that balance anyway. And it's a little bit of a joke within the footy club because a lot of guys like play golf and, all this sort of stuff. And everyone just reckons that, I just love being a dad. Like they're just always like, oh, what do you do? Yes, you just love being a dad. So you just want to spend time with your kids. And I do because like nearly every day off I've got swimming lessons. And Lockie, obviously here, his daughter also does swimming lessons. They're not the same class. They're same swim school.
Facility.
So yeah, we do swimming lessons on our day off. My son plays. He's doing like soccer.
I saw that in your story the other day. Yeah, so very cute.
He's loving the soccer at the minute. He can't get the footy at the minute. He can't drop the ball onto his foot.
We'll
but
get there.
We've got to.
How old is he?
He's only 3, so I should give him some. Credit to even try. Yeah. But yeah, and then my daughter does dancing. My son also does gymnastics. So I'm just trying to when I get the opportunity, because I've only ever taken my daughter once to dancing and she's probably been 20 times, and I've never taken Jace to gymnastics because my schedule doesn't work. So when I get a day off, the feeling for me is like now I get to spend time with my kids. And it's funny, like, I always go to post-career and think about, what I want to do in that. And it's almost like my life, I just want to sort of be able to watch my son and daughter do whatever they do. So whether it's Jace, my son, whether I get to watch him play footy on a Saturday, like it's almost like I'm thinking of a job that doesn't work on a Saturday. I'm like, what can I do? Or like, watch him at training on Thursday nights. And it's funny. Like I always think about that because in the end, like it's kind of why I play footy. Like, in my first couple of years, when I had Jay. So he was born in 2020, pure COVID baby. Like literally he was born in February and we got locked down in March. So, he sort of only knew me with a mask on for his first couple of years. It's amazing, like to be able to tell those kids some of these stories.
Did he go up with you into the hub?
He went up to the hub. So he was 3 months old when we went up into the hub. Slept in a bathroom for those 100 days that we were there. But that's because that was the quietest room in our place. Like we were very lucky. Like it's funny. Like we're jumping around a bit here, but COVID and the hub. The hub was the best 3 months of my life. Like it was awesome. Like it's like I was living in Maroochydore, a walk away from the beach. Like there's a lot of people that complain about the hub and I totally get it. Like it was tough. Like for some people that didn't have family there, and like I was super lucky that my wife and my son got to come up. But like we were a walk away from the beach, one of the most beautiful beaches in Maroochydore. Like it was absolutely amazing. Cafe there, like 25 degrees every day. If there was a sprinkle of rain, you'd be like, what the hell's going on? Like it's like, well, everyone's stuck in lockdown here. Like I actually felt terrible for people that were here, and like my wife's friend, my friends, like it was like I couldn't even imagine what was going on back here. So I think for us, like we had so much gratitude to, one, continue to play football and hopefully give people at home something to look forward to on the weekend. But two, like we got to live, not normally because we weren't allowed out of the resort and everything like that. We weren't allowed to go to restaurants and that. The cafe couldn't go down the street. Yep. Like the cafe was, there. The cafe was there on the site where we stayed. So they moved the shipping container in one of the cafes down the road and made coffee there for us. So yeah, like we had a pretty good experience in the hub. But yeah, again, like that's probably where, the first 2 years of Jace's life, like he never really got to come to the footy. And like looking back now, like I just love where, like this weekend, 4:35 game, perfect. Jace and Scarlett, my kids can come to the game. Like they'll be in the rooms after the game. Like that is just perfect. Like,
do they love it? They love being at the club?
Yeah. Jace, like he's obviously the oldest. Scarlett doesn't really get it. She just looks for dad and comes over and jumps in the song when we win after the game.
That's awesome for you though.
Oh, for sure. But Jace, like I don't think he gets it yet. He doesn't understand why dad goes to footy training every day. Yeah. Like he just always doesn't understand how big it is. Yeah, every day he sort of says to me, "Oh, have fun at training," where it's not like have fun at work. Like he gets that, Pop, Jess's dad, he goes to work, Nanny goes to work, Mum, obviously, Jess doesn't work, but she's a teacher. So it's always like go to work, but dad goes to training. He's sort of like every now and then you can see that he's confused why I go to footy training all the time. But yeah, like as you said, like it's amazing to be able to see them after the game, because whether I've played shocking, we've lost, whatever it is, it's like as soon as I see them, it's like
everything's okay.
It's just like you put into perspective of what you're actually doing. As much as I love winning and I'm competitive, like once I see them, it's almost like I've forgotten everything. And it is a pretty good lifestyle that we live, but at the same time, it's bloody hard sometimes. And they definitely, it's funny, like you talk about how much I love my family, but they do take a backseat at times. Like, and that's why, my wife and I, like, I can never, not repay, because you don't really repay, like I don't really believe in that, but the gratitude that I have, especially for my wife, to be able to let me almost do what I want. Like, whenever it's something to do with footy, it's never a complaint. It's like, I want to go and spend an hour at the float tank in Mornington. It's never like, oh God, you just got home from training for 7 hours. Like, it's like everything is just, yep, that's fine. Yep, that's fine. Like to be the best I can be. And that's why I think that I've had a successful career so far, because in the end, the people that are around you, like if you're worried about, doing extras or worrying about, spending a lot of money on a sauna and an ice bath, like it ends up being too hard and you start overthinking things. So, yeah, I know my kids can't really tell me no anymore. I know yet. So, like, they can't say to me, no, Dad, we want you to stay here. But I'm sure in the future, like, they'll get that the only way that you're going to get anywhere realistically is if you work hard and you do all the extras. And there's a football program at our footy club, but if you just do the football program, you probably won't get anywhere realistically. Yeah. Like, you've got to do way more than the program to become Clayton Oliver at our footy club. Like, we finished 2 hours ago. He's probably still there doing something at the footy club. He's just a freak.
Maniac.
Christian Petrarca, the same thing. It's like he's almost got to go and like actually spend time away from the footy club because he just loves it. And, you know, all the great players are the exact same. And, you know, there's a number of examples of, especially NBA. You think of Kobe, all the stories about him, about, you know, what was it? It was like, I'll meet you there at 4.
You only slept 4 hours a night or something?
Yeah, it's like crazy. And now all it is about, get to sleep, get more sleep, get more sleep, get more sleep. But it's like, it's funny, like the blokes that actually get up early are probably the most successful
They're
ones.
winning.
So it's funny, like it is definitely a balancing act. But yeah, I just love playing footy for my family, especially, and to see their face after the game.
Let's talk about Jess.
Yep.
How did you meet her?
Jess, I met her, so I finished school, so I was born in the first 4 months of the year. I was born in March, so I started school early. And after my bottom age football year, there was a fair chance that I was going to get drafted. And to be honest, I didn't really know what I was going to do after footy, after school, sorry. So I just did it was called an AFL Sports Ready traineeship, and what you do is basically, like how I explained it was, I was an assistant PE teacher. So if you're the PE teacher, I'd go set up the cones or organise what the lesson's going to be and what class and everything. And I did it at Mount Ridley College in Craigieburn, which happened to be right across the road from Calder Cannons.
Is that where you were playing?
Which Calder Cannons I was playing.
Yep.
So I actually did my knee that year, but I still went to training every night because it was there and I had my license and everything. I did my rehab the whole time that I was in at Calder. So basically I'd go from work straight to training, home, and then, yeah, so basically Jess was a teacher at Mount Ridley College and that's how we met. And, yeah, we would have met in probably March and then, yeah, got drafted in November and then she came over with me to Adelaide, so big move for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive move for her, really.
How long were you together before she moved?
So I was like 10 months.
Yep.
Yeah, 9 months. Yeah, so it was obviously a big decision to come over, but yeah, we sort of saw, yeah, I wasn't really a footballer before, you know. It's funny, like you think to yourself, oh, it's not long and everything, but, you know, I knew Jess she didn't really love me for being a footballer. Like, she didn't even know at the start when we met. Like, I'm sort of a person that I wasn't boasting too much about it. And I was just a kid that worked there. And, yeah, she was like first year out of uni. So she would have been, 22, 23. And, yeah, we just met through there and end up being together and then moving to Adelaide. Like, I'm so glad she came over with me because it would have been really hard. Yeah, just moving over by yourself, and I have a lot of sympathy for kids that do that now. So,
well, that was going to be my next question. Like, you picked 14 or so.
Yep.
Moving to Adelaide, like, did you move in with anyone, or was it just you and Jess?
So I was actually with Patrick Dangerfield for the first month. Lived with him and his wife Marty. They've got 3 kids now, I think. So and Jake Kelly, who plays for Essendon now, who was also at Adelaide. He lived with Paddy. So I moved in with them for a month and.
Was Jess with you?
No, so Jess was still... So the transition period, it was basically... I think the draft was on like the 25th of November, and so between the 25th and Christmas, it would have been a month. I just stayed with Paddy because I think, you know, we still do it now, and it's funny because I learnt so much from Danger and Jake Kelly especially about, you know, how to live. Because you're just an 18-year-old kid being at school, like you sort of get told what to do, whereas now it's like you're an adult and you get thrown in the deep end of like being at meetings on time, eating the right things, trying to cook. Like, so, you know, Danger and Marty obviously did a lot of that for me, but even to be able to just learn from them, like, it was pretty amazing. It's funny, like, now I always put my hand up to have like a draftee kid. Like, I've had James Jordon live with me, Trent Rivers and Blake Howes. So they're my 3 little kids, little sons as I call them at the club. So yeah, it's funny, like, to be able to just learn from them, or a guy like Paddy, who was, you know, then best player in the competition, and, you know, still on his day he's the best player in the competition. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. But yeah, then Jess moved over with me, and it was tough because, like, we just moved straight out. Jess hadn't lived out of home, I hadn't lived out of home, so we get thrown into the deep end. It's like every night, oh, crap, what are we having for dinner? Like, what are we cooking?
You don't even think about it, eh?
Yeah, nah. And like, you know, it wasn't like I could just go out and eat whatever I wanted. Like, it was like, you know, you have to be a professional athlete at the same time. And Jess got a job as well. She was a teacher over in Adelaide at Blackfriars, which was sort of about 30 minutes away from our house. So, you know, like, it wasn't, you know, I'm not saying it was tough and we were living, you know, paycheck to paycheck or anything like that, but it was like, you just had to learn, and you sort of just got thrown straight.
You're learning on the job.
And yeah, and also, like, I'm then trying to prove myself at the footy club on, you know, why did we take this kid with pick 14? Like, I wanted to play straight away, and yeah, it was a tough transition period, but, like, I played pretty early. Like, I've sort of, my career, I was pretty lucky that there was actually no one in that position at Adelaide, whereas I look at some of the kids now that come into Melbourne, and I'm like, oh man, that guy's not, like, he's not going to play.
He's a good player, but
he's not going to play for like 4
Who's
years.
he kicking out?
Like, it's like, I even think about, like, you know, a player, and I don't want to embarrass him, but like Blake Howes. Like, Blake Howes is an absolute gun. Like, like, he's going to be such a good player, but, like, for 3 years now he hasn't played. But it's like, whose spot is he taking? Like, we've got one of the best midfielders in, you know, in the competition. Like, we've got Track, Clary, Jack Viney, Tom Sparrow, James Jordon, like Luke Dunstan's still a great player. Like, all these guys, and it's like, it's really hard, and and that's why you always talk about good clubs always lose those younger players, and we saw it with, like, guys like from Richmond, even Geelong when they were up and going, Hawthorn. Like, it's actually hard to keep those players because they're looking at, you know, I think Blake House's best mate is Finn Callahan, who plays at GWS. He's looking at him going, he's playing every week, but he might be a similar or, you know, better player than him. So he's like sitting there going, like, why aren't I playing? But it's funny. Like, it's just where your club's at, which positions are filled properly. So,
well, it's a credit to the club and the culture there to be able to retain a player like that that's not getting a gig. He just wants to stay around and try and crack in.
Absolutely. And I think that we really value those players, like, especially in the VFL program. Like, yeah, they get a lot of pump ups, and I think it's important that players, like, I used to think to myself, you know, when I was at Adelaide, if there was a player similar to me playing in the SANFL and he played well, like, I'd always be like,
bullshit.
Oh God, like, he's coming for me here. But yeah, now I just love, like, teaching young guys in our footy club, like, whether it's Daniel Turner, who, you know, he played on the weekend, but you know, I used to be almost like worried about him playing well, but whereas now, like, I just think I get so much out of actually helping him and coaching him. And then, as you said, like, then they want to stay around. Then they don't want to leave. And then in 3 years' time, when, you know, Stephen May's, he's 31 now, when he's 34 and he can't go on anymore, like, we need Daniel Turner and I need him to be able to play well. So it's funny, like, how it, you know, a perfect example is Harry Petty. Harry Petty got to the club same year as me. And when I first got there, I was a bit like, oh, man, this kid's good. Like, he could take my spot.
Me versus him.
Where it's like, now it's like, I love that guy. Like, he's like, I want to play with him every week, and he helps me so much. So it's like, yeah, it's funny how just through your career, like, your perspective changes on what's important, and how much help you can give those younger guys that look up to you without you really knowing it. Like, you know, I guess I know that I'm a leader of the club, but, like, Daniel Turner, he's probably watching me what I do every day to be able to then emulate that, and then hopefully that transitions to on field. So yeah, it's funny that how much senior players help the younger players, and then therefore like they want to stay around.
Take us back to living with Danger. What was the biggest takeaway or learning that you took from living with him as a young guy?
Yeah, so
that you've then perhaps imparted onto the young guys at Melbourne?
I think just like he had a great balance between off-field and on-field, and whether he was at training or at home. But I was actually living with Danger at the time that he was trying to lose like 8 kilos. And like for me, being a young, skinny, scrawny kid, like I just didn't get it. Like I was just like worried about like the size of him. Like he's massive, man, and like he's fit as and he's powerful. And I'm like, what's he need to lose 8 kilos? And then when he did, you could see what happened. And I think from then on, I was like, if there is something that you want to do and you work hard at it, and therefore, like you achieve it, like actually what it can do for you. Like, so I think of my own game, like this year, like I'm pretty naturally, luckily, pretty naturally like long distance fit. Like, you know, I think this year I've only ever come off to the bench once. Like I'm pretty lucky that I like a sort of like can play out the game and I'm fine. But the one thing that I'm not great at is like my agility and my speed, sort of like that's not my go. And I just wanted to work on that the whole off season. And if I reflect back on it, it's probably what Danger, like that lesson is like, if you just work so hard at it, because I worked so hard at it, like throughout the whole off season, it was almost like my motivation was like, that's what I want to be good at. And then like you get back and you start training, you start doing match play, and then you do these other things and you're like, oh, I think it's actually working. And then people start saying to you like, oh my God, like, wow, like
moving well.
You're moving well. Like you look more like agile, and you're like, wow, like it's funny. Like the lesson is that if you work hard at that and you have a clear focus every single day of like what you want to achieve and what you want to do, and then when it finally comes out, that satisfaction is like, oh, how good is
nothing
that?
better.
Like, it's like, how good is that? Like I could imagine it'd be like in the gym. I'm pretty lucky that I don't at the footy club. We're not saying that, oh, you have to deadlift 200, otherwise you're not playing. But I could see that like in the gym, it's like if you continue to get better at it and like the kilos keep going up and, you know, bench press 100, and it's like the satisfaction is like, yeah.
It's like, what's next? Yeah, there's nothing more motivating than actual measured, objective progress and growth.
Definitely. So
there's a lot of talk about how Melbourne's like, it's the big footy capital and a lot of players want to get away. You were in South Australia, which is a huge footy capital as well. I have a theory. I reckon it's arguably a bigger, more intense energy because they've only got their 2 clubs that are like so beloved. You've lived in both Melbourne and Adelaide. What's your opinion on that? Was that a more intense energy being over there, or was it a bit different?
Oh, no, way more intense.
Yep.
It's funny, like as you said, it's people talk about Melbourne being the footy capital, which I think it is because there's so many teams and it's so many more games and we get the grand final and everything like that. But in Adelaide, like there's a small story, like I walked into Westlake Shopping Centre like 4 days after I got drafted. I had to go and get something, and like I got asked for a photo, and it's like it like
I haven't even played a game yet.
First round draft picks here, unless you're like number one, you know, someone like Nick Dacos, like before he played, like he might get a photo, but it's like I was nobody, and you know, like first round pick, like obviously they want good things out of you, but like it's like. Yeah, there was like people saying hello to me in Westlake like 4 days after I got drafted. I was like, man, what is this? Like, and that was generally somewhere where like you'd go out and it's like you'd have to try and hide in the corner because otherwise like, and like I'm talking like, it wasn't like I was, you know, top 5 players in the comp where, you know, I think of someone like Max Gawn. Like Gawny, if he goes out, like I actually feel bad for him sometimes. Like, because he's big, he's got a beard, everyone knows who he is. Yeah. So like everyone knows who he is, and he gets hassled a lot. But yeah, Adelaide, it was like that everywhere for every player on the list. Like it was crazy. Like it was, it's definitely much more intense. And then obviously the year that I left, like I was out of contract and I hadn't signed, and like yeah, there was rumours of me going back to Melbourne. It was like. Talk about intense, like that was that was pretty bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about booing at the moment. When you moved, like, was it 2018, you moved to Melbourne. Did you cop any of that when you went back to Adelaide? And do you still cop it now?
Yeah. Cop the booze, but I think it makes me play better. So
yeah. Did it get to you at all?
Nah, I don't think so. Nah. My first game against Adelaide was actually in Alice Springs. So lucky enough it wasn't back at Adelaide Oval, but then I did eventually go back to Adelaide Oval. I think I love playing at Adelaide Oval, so I think the boos are justified then, which I don't mind. Like, I'm fine with, like, if a player leaves your footy club and then therefore, you know, they come back, like, that's part of footy.
Yes.
But I think, the topic of conversation would be like the Lance Franklin one, the Jason Horne-Francis, like that one. It's just like, it's almost like people just don't like getting told what to do. So I don't boo them.
It's a rebellion.
It's like, oh, you can't tell me what to do kind of thing. Whereas I think just for myself, it's like, that's just silly. Like if you're booing Lance Franklin, like he's honestly, like I still walk past Buddy Franklin when I'm on the field and I'm like, this is sick. This is sick. Like we had a player this year, Judd McVie, absolute gun, 19-year-old. If you had told me that he'd be playing last year when he was playing, like I would have laughed at you. Like he has come so far in so little, whereas now like he's like a genuine fixture in our team. Like he's a gun. And he's a boy from Geraldton in Perth, and we were playing Sydney this year, and Stephen May was playing on Buddy. And he's sort of like, and Juddy's coming back. He's walking back, and you could see Judd, like, look. He's, like, looking at thing. And he, like, looks down, and he, like, looks at him again. And Maisie's like, yes, Judd, that's Buddy Franklin. Now go and stand on that guy. Like, so it's funny. Like, it's like those guys are, like, champions of the game. And, like, Jason Horne-Francis is an absolute gun. So, for me, it's like, unless it's North Melbourne booing him, like I think that everyone else, it's like, I don't even know what you're achieving there. Like, it probably played, like I think every time Horne-Francis has been booed, he's been best on ground, like the St Kilda one, like he's dominated. So it's like, it's not really working for those guys. But yeah, I definitely get the ones where your players left the team, or, you know, an incident happens in a game where someone cleans someone up and then you boo them for the rest of the game. That's fine. That's part of footy. But when it's just genuinely, like I
week in, week out.
Yeah, I think of Adam Goods. Like he was my favourite. I was a Sydney fan growing up, and he was by far my favourite player. And like right at the end of his career when he was getting booed every week, like it was like, I just look at that and go, like this, especially even with like you think about like mental health and everything like that these days, I think like you just don't want, like that's just not necessary, especially every week for a champion of the game, 2-time Brownlow medalist, like number of All-Australian. I think he was All-Australian in every position or something. He was like ruck, forward, back, like an absolute gun. So like, for me, I don't really see why people boo. But
it's pretty fascinating to me that, as you said, the ones who are the first to cry mental health are probably the first to boo a champion.
Yes.
Last thing on the Adelaide chapter before we move on. Grand final, like a lot of people say, a grand final loss, you never quite forget about it. It's always in the back of your mind. Since you've had the success in 2021, do you still think about it, or have you pretty quickly moved on?
I still think of it because I would have loved to won the grand final as my last game for Adelaide, because I still loved my time at the Adelaide Footy Club. People always ask me, do you still, you hate Tex, don't you? Whereas like Tex is actually, at the time, I think like there was things said that he probably regrets. I probably regret not telling anyone or how it got out that I was leaving. But now like Tex, he's got 3 kids as well. Like I've got 2, he's got 3. We always talk about, on Instagram about kids, whether it's photo of it or whatever it is, and out in the field, like we always have a joke, like out there, like we'll play on each other for like 5 minutes, and I'll tell him that I'll beat him like I used to at training. He'll be like, oh mate, I always used to beat you at training. So like things like that, it's fine. But like I would have loved to win a grand final for Adelaide as my last game, and God, in the first quarter, it was definitely looking like that. And
I was a Tigers fan, and it was looking scary when Eddie Betts kicked that second goal. I was like, fuck, here we go.
Yeah, and then to Richmond's credit, what a great side they are. And I had probably one of the worst days. I had to play on Jacob Townsend, and he pinched me and punched me for like 3 hours, and I was like, man, this guy is just an absolute weapon and will do whatever it takes to win a football game. And like, he played on me a few more times when I played Richmond, and like, I've got so much respect for him because he was just a genuine, like, just loved winning and would do anything for the team. And he it's almost like I hated playing against him, but man, I wish he were on my like if he was on my team, I'd absolutely love him. So, in the end we lost, and and then all of a sudden it's like then it comes out that I'm leaving, and people are heated, and it's like, I'm assuming that there's things that were said that people would regret, but in the end, it is what it is. I moved on, as you said. Like, I ended up getting success at Melbourne, and I'm telling you right now, halfway through the third quarter, I thought it was happening again to me that I was going to lose another grand final. I was like, geez, 0 from 2, that's not good. How am I going to come back? And then I didn't have to do anything for 45 minutes, and it was great. But yeah, like as you said, like my time at Adelaide I absolutely loved, and I would have loved to win a grand final. And every now and then I do think about it, like, you do. Like, the first thing in my mind about grand finals is that I won one, but at the same time, like, I think that, losing one definitely motivated me more, and I knew that. I just guess now I think to myself that I know that you can come back from loss and then get more motivation and win. So, I love my time at Adelaide, and first year I left Adelaide, I watched every week hoping they'd lose, but now, like, I actually love the way they play, and obviously Darren Burgess is there, who I still talk to a lot. He was such a pivotal part of what we achieved for Melbourne, and we've got a great replacement now. But when he left, I think all the boys were pretty shattered. But you could see, like, the way that they play, it's a great way to play. And Tex is obviously playing good footy, and then they've got like some new additions. So I don't hope they lose every week now. I just like watching them play, and I think it's better like that.
Who are some other of the Jacob Townsend players that you look at and you think, shit, I'd love him on my team?
Bruzzy Maynard, Braden Maynard from Collingwood. We were actually talking about this in the gym the other day, the replay of Sydney Collingwood who was on, and it just seems like every time there's an argument, he's always first there. I don't know if he sniffs it out or he's the instigator, but he's someone that just, like, you'd love to be able to play with him and
go to war with him.
Absolutely. Like, it's just those role players that, he's a great player. He's an Australian player, but like, they just, that everything they do is revolved around the team, and they're the guys that you love playing with, and you've got so much respect for. And I think it's funny, like, that's why you see a lot of like best and fairest winners. You're like, oh wow, like, he won the best and fairest. Like, I think of like Jaden Short winning best and fairest for Richmond, like
premiership year.
It's like you get it. He's a good player, but it's like he's probably doing things that the footy club loves so much that then he doesn't really get the recognition, externally, that, say, I don't know, someone like Dylan Grimes would. Like, captain, all-Australian player, like, he gets a lot of credit because, the media focusing on him, but Jaden Short might be doing his role every week, and then he wins the best and fairest. Like, oh wow, that's amazing! Like,
do you reckon that mounts a case that club BNFs are substantially more important than any AFL award?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Brownlow's a midfield award. I can't believe it. Far out.
Agreed.
Let's get a forward or a back to win it.
We need a defender award, mate.
Yeah. The defender award used to be Spud Frawley's golden fist. Everyone used to fire up about that. But I think that or the coaches' votes. Like, the club best and fairest is obviously super, and it just depends how the club do it. Like, sometimes the club do it weirdly where, like, you could get like 100 votes a game, and it's like, man, where are these votes coming from? Whereas I think we do it well. I think we get like a maximum of 40 a game, and it's like each line coach votes. So you could get 40 out of 40, or you could get 10 if you played no good. So I think that's a good way. But the Coaches Votes Association award is like, they're the ones that, like, they watch the game live, then they rewatch it, and then they vote. So it's like,
they know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about. So I'm assuming, like, And you always see, like, it does have a little bit of a correlation towards club BNFs or Brownlows or all Australians and that. But, yeah, I think that's probably one of the most, important awards because those coaches do watch footy hard.
You've moved back to Melbourne. A lot of, like, the media, it talks about the fun-loving and inclusive nature that successful clubs embrace, and it was talked about with Melbourne and Richmond. Was that the case the whole time, and it's only like magnified and highlighted and talked about when you're actually successful, or is there a clear shift in culture pre-premiership and then leading into the premiership?
Yeah, good question. I think 2018 when I first got to Melbourne, so I did my knee in like around 11, so I didn't play the back half of the year and then in the finals, but I think in 2018 we were so immature. Like, we had so many guys that were like, I think like I was 21, I might have been 22, and like you look at outside now, there's a lot of guys around the same age. So you think to yourself, that's 5 years before that. Like, there's a lot of 22-year-olds, 23, 24, don't really know what they're doing in terms of in big moments, big games. We just sort of got on a bit of a roll. And then you talk about the culture. Like, in 2019, I think we won like 4 games. Like, it was a horrific year for the footy club. Like, we'd lose every game by like 25 points. It was like every week. It's like, oh yeah, we lost by 25 points every week. But it's like, it doesn't matter if it was the 17th ranked team or the first. Like, we'd lose by 25 points. It was like we couldn't get past this, mental barrier. But culturally, I think the shift really happened after the hub in 2020, and I think that definitely helped us, the hub, because we got to know each other and we got to know each other's families, and you could see why blokes were playing footy, whether it was for their partner, whether it was for their family, whether it was for the kids, whether they just absolutely love footy. I think that's where it comes from in terms of, you see a lot of clubs trying to do it now, like you're deeper why you do things. And from then on, I know Max has spoken about it a bit, but footy clubs are great for banter, but sometimes that banter, I almost call it like professional banter, which you shouldn't really go into, which is if you're trying to deadlift and you've got, I don't know, crap form, and I just keep telling you, look at his form, like, that's not really, like, rather than like, I don't know, like, oh my God, how bad are your shoes that you're wearing today? Like, that's fine. And it's funny, like the contrast in banter that we had at the footy club, there was a lot of professional banter, and I know Max has spoken about it a lot, but there was one example that I was a part of that it would be like, I might have taken 10 intercept marks in a game, which is like, I think the record is 10. Like, it's like Jake's walked off. He's like, wow, geez, I've played well today. And then like someone's like, oh, wow, you played so good today, 10 intercept marks, but you didn't even play on anyone. Like, that's where it sort of went to, and that's a natural thing for, football clubs, because it is like competitive environment, but it's also like the greatest part of a footy club, that banter, and that's what I think a lot of people miss when they leave. But it's actually sort of, it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. Like, it might be once, it's like, oh yeah, that hurts, and then it's like, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and until like that person actually then thinks to themselves, oh, maybe like they're right, maybe
do I suck?
Like, am I actually not playing on anyone, or this and this? And it's like, it's funny that just having one of those conversations, a guy, like, I don't even know if you would know him, but his name was Aaron Vandenberg. Yeah. And he was the one person that brought it up when everyone sort of was a bit like blasé about it. Everyone was like, when he said it, everyone was like, wow, this guy's right. Like,
well, what did he actually say?
So he just got up.
It's got to stop, or?
Well, yeah, he's just like, that we sort of have a cultural day every year. And we had it at the Settlers Run Golf Day, and we just play golf, and then we do a little bit of a cultural thing, that what this year looks like and what we want to look at, what we want the year to look like. And he just got up and he was just like, this is one thing that I've noticed from the footy club, and I think that the guys that get it the most are pretty strong people, but you can see that at times it does affect them. And I'm a bit like that. I'm pretty thick-skinned. Like, I love the banter of it. I give out as much as I get, but I think then when it starts to become actually what you're working on, and what you want to be as a footballer, like it actually does hurt a lot. Like it might be a midfielder where you're like, oh man, you got 35 touches, but so did you, man. You play on it. What, you didn't defend all day.
Win a hard ball.
It's like win a hard ball. Like it's like things like that. So it's like it's that. It's just like the professional banter that you don't really want to be hearing all the time, because in the end, like you're there to do a job and you're there to try and get better. And if someone's taking the piss out of you, what you're trying to work on, then like you've got no motivation, and then you've got no confidence, and then you can't play well. So that was a big shift in our culture. And
so that was just to put a stop to that.
That was
entirely.
Just to put a stop. And you know what? It still happens now, but at least you've got it in the back of your mind. Like you might say something and then you just like instantly, like Gorney talks about it all the time. Like he's an amazing leader, amazing captain. He talks about it all the time. Like he'll say something and then like, I'm one of his best mates, and I'll just look at him and go, that was it.
Watch yourself.
That was it. And he's like, oh, yep. And then like, it's just actually holding people accountable. And ever since then, you can see that like whether it still happens, and then it's like, okay, then it just gets reined back in. And it's like there's a difference between banter in terms of like telling a midfielder he needs to defend better in a jokingly way when you're walking past him in the corridor in front of everyone to embarrass him, or you actually go to him and be like, mate, like as a team, we need you to defend better. We need you to do this. Like one-on-one in a chat, and it's like there's a difference. And then, as I said, like the banter about like his haircut, like surely you didn't pay for that haircut, mate. Like that's a horrific haircut. What have you done? Like there's that difference. Like it's like he's not really worried about his haircut. Like I walk into the footy club, I've got a haircut, and someone says to me, surely you didn't pay for that. Like that, I'm not worried about that, because I'm not a hair stylist or something like that. So yeah, that was a big cultural shift, and it's literally been one of the best things for our footy club. But at the same time, another thing that was culturally shifted that year was Mark Williams came into our footy club. And
what year did he come? Sorry,
2021. So Burjo came 2020, and then Choco came 2021. And I remember we talk about like role players all the time and being a great role player, and sort of as your footy career goes on, you go, I just want to be a role player. Like that's what people value. I want to be a role player. But it's like, to be a great team, yes, you need role players, but they actually need to be great at that role. So Choco comes in and is like, no, like, yeah, you want to be a great role player. So for me, like I want to be the best teammate possible was probably for 2 years one of my things that I want teammates to say like, like he's getting picked first every week. Like that was something that I wanted, and he's a great role player, and he plays his role well. But when Choco come in, basically what my then thing was no, like be a great player. So I changed my, my motto, or my, trying to think of what we called it, like development plan, like the thing that was on top of everything was I want to be the best intercept player in the competition. So like your mindset instantly changes to, I'm just going to role play and just punch the ball out of bounds. No. Like I've got the capabilities to be the best intercept player in the competition. So why don't I like try and achieve that? And like I was lucky enough in the first year that I did. And when I do start to struggle, that is the one thing that I come back to. It's like, well, that's what I know that I can achieve. So hopefully that I can do it. But yeah, it's funny that like those two little things just shift the culture, and then everyone starts to buy into it. And then it's like, it's funny, like it takes 21 days to create a habit or whatever. And that's what it was like. It was like 3 weeks of culturally changing that language, and then mindset around being great at everything that you do. And then it's like instantly, it's like you could see the training standard like go through the roof.
Yeah.
People being competitive with spots. And then it's like, wow, like I need to outperform this guy. And then it's like you just keep getting better and better. And then in the end, like we end up winning the premiership. And I think that those two were like very clear reasons why.
What sort of changes did you implement to become the best intercept player in the game? Like aside from mindset and shifting that language around success, like were there any other changes that you made?
Oh, I think like you can say that, and as I spoke to you before, like I could probably sit as the spare defender, and we play 7 defenders, and I could just sit there all day and try and mark the ball. But you actually look at, like, at your best, like, what do you do? So for me, like, at my best, when I'm playing on someone and I just read the ball quicker than them, that's when I intercept. Whereas when I'm actually the spare, I'm actually just sort of standing there like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not, it's like, oh, Jesus, what's happening? So I actually looked at what, when I'm at my best, what am I doing, and what is my patterns, what is my mindset, what is, little things like, what does my footwork look like, what does my posture look like things like that. So it's like in moments, because there is moments in games where it's just in flow, and it's like, oh man, like, geez, I've just had 5 intercept marks in like one quarter, like, and I've just like, I haven't even thought about it. But there is moments in games where you're like, oh, whoa, what am I doing? Geez, I'm just standing here. Oh no, the ball's up. And then it's like, in those moments, like, I try and go back to, what do I look like at my best? And it's like, it's a little flick of a switch. And I think that's why you do so much mindfulness, because that's what it basically is. It's like being able to identify the moment that you've switched off, and then whether it's come back to your breath, whether it's come back to what you do at your best, whether it's come back to the feeling of your feet on the ground in that moment. Like, I just tried to do that all the time, and that was definitely one thing that I focused in on. And then just, as you said, my mindset. Like, I always used to get worried about getting beaten. Like, whether it's a one-on-one or, like, I'd always be like, oh, geez, I just hope I don't lose this right now.
Yeah, you see it as an opportunity to fail rather than to succeed.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, God, I hope I don't get beaten here. And then it's like, then you get beaten, then you're like, why was I thinking like that? And it's funny, like, the longer that my career's gone on, I just appreciate so much more playing the day. Like, game day, everyone always used to say game day's the best day. And to be totally honest, I did not agree with them, because I used to be so nervous about stuffing up, whether that's not playing well, whether that's making one mistake in a footy game of 120 minutes. I'm telling you, I'm making at least 10. And if I make 10 mistakes, I've probably been best on ground. Like, it's like, that's how many mistakes are in a game these days. Like, what you're doing, whether it's you ran the wrong way, or you missed the flight of the ball, or, like, you've missed a handball. Like, it's amazing how many mistakes are in a game. But, like, there was some games where, like, you just loved playing. Like, when I was at Adelaide, like, I used to love playing in the showdown. Like, it's like, I can't wait to play today. But there's other games where I literally thought to myself, I'd rather fast forward the next 3 hours and just hope that I played good, like, got a standard game. Like, I'd want to fast forward.
Like on your AFL 2007, just simulate it.
Just simulate it and be like, oh yeah, he played all right today. Like, that's sometimes what I'd rather, because I used to get so worked up about making a mistake and not playing well. And, like, I guess that's like performance anxiety, basically, which I've never really thought about that I had. But, you know, reflecting on those times, it's like, that's exactly what I had. Like, it's like, I'd just rather just, like, right now, it's like, you know, if I was playing Hawthorn this week, I'd get to Saturday morning and be like, if I could close my eyes right now and just fast forward 10 hours and it's at the end of the game, I'm driving home and I've just played okay, I'll do that right now. Whereas now, like, I just love playing.
And rather than just fail.
Yeah. But now, like, I just love playing. So it's like, Saturday's like my favourite day. And, like, I think you do have to work yourself up into that moment, because you're always going to have anxiety. Like, I get nervous before every game. Like, people who don't get nervous, like Clayton Oliver, Track, Vines, they never get nervous before games. Like, I speak to them, they're like, no, I'm not nervous. It's like, I get nervous. It doesn't matter if I'm playing the worst team or the best team, or round 6 at, you know, Tasmania Stadium against Hawthorn, or, like, the grand final. Like, so I'm the same nervousness. Like, it's amazing that, like, I just haven't ever been able to shake that. But I think it just shows that, like, I just love playing footy so much and I care about the result. But at the same time, it's like, you've actually just got to let go and be like, because in the end, that's how I play my best, and it's how everyone plays their best, is letting go and actually just playing football because you're good at it. Like, you've trained so much for it. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I've been trying to work on.
Yeah, it shows you how powerful of a tool like visualization and imagining what winning looks like is.
Definitely.
You touched on mindset. Like, what sort of things did you implement to help you sort of get over that hump? Like, are you a journaler? Do you do some breath work, meditation? Like,
yeah, so I'm meditation every day. A lot of it's around my breath. A lot of it's just, like probably 10 minutes in the morning. We have scheduled times at the footy club that a group of probably, I think it's about 8 of us do meditation every morning. So, and it's great because a lot of people talk about it, but then it's like you've actually got to implement it in the schedule and give times for, blokes to do it, because otherwise they won't do it. Like realistically, it's like you say, do your meditation, but there's no time between 8 and 4 to do it in our schedule, then blokes are like, well, it's obviously not that important to us. So actually then reflecting on actually how you feel in those times. Like I know that when I do meditation at night, so I try and, talk about the 7:30, like I'm sort of going through a period now where I've got the sauna. So I go out into the sauna and that's my meditation. Like I do my breathing and that in there, but there was a time where I was doing meditation at like 7:30 at night and then my sleep was phenomenal. Like it was amazing. Like I'd just do 10 minutes and I'd almost fall asleep in it. But then like I noticed that my sleep was amazing. And then when you don't sleep well, it's like, okay, what actually helped me sleep well? So like I do a lot of meditation, breathing, visualization I do. I try and probably more before the game. Again, there's a 10-minute mindfulness practice that we do before the game, about 2 hours before, and our psychologist who runs our meditation, mindfulness stuff, he basically goes through a visualization of when you're at your best, what does it look like, and then obviously see yourself today, and like for instance this week, like I'll picture myself against Hawthorn, like whoever I'm going to play on, it's like might be me taking a hanger on him or bodying him out and marking the ball, or me doing a good kick. Like it's actually like really helpful. And like, it's very powerful. So they're some of the things that I've tried to implement. And then I think the third one is just probably just getting away from the game as well. And sort of, I actually delete Instagram. 2 days before the game, sort of 48 hours. I try and like, it's just a bit of a buffer for me, because my feed is full of footy stuff. Do you follow like footy pages or anything? Yeah, footy pages, like AFL, 7 AFL, because I am a footy head. Like I love knowing, what, I don't know, Port Adelaide have done, or have they won, who's played well. Like I do enjoy that, but I don't think that I need to like watch footy and then go on my phone and then it's on footy and then I'm thinking about my game and then it's like, so Instagram, like just deleting the app like 48 hours before is something that I really have done all this year. And it's actually like I do go into the games more like fresh and open-minded, and so it's just a little thing like that. But I think just getting away from the game is probably that third pillar that I try and do, and like, getting off my phone, because I believe that a lot of the things or habits that I have away from my phone are good. Like nearly everything that I do away from my phone is good. So sometimes like your phone, you need your phone, because I think I'd be stressed without it as well. Like for instance, when I go away, it's not like I can just throw my phone away for 3 days and like, because I'd be thinking, shit, how's Jace? How's Scarlett? How's Jess? Like it's natural. Like they can't contact me, blah, blah, blah. But it's like actually when I'm at home, being present, because it's funny, like we have like group chats from the footy club, and then like there's things you have to do on your phone. Like we do our HRV every morning, our wellness. So it's like just being on your phone, like you might think that you're away from footy, but you get a message from Demons 2023 and then you're like thinking about footy. But it's like if you actually just, I try and put my phone on charge, spend time with the kids, and then when I'm actually doing something, like just putting my phone, like leave my phone in the car when I'm, down at the skate park with the kids, scooter park with Jace, something like that. Like just leave my phone in the car rather than then just sitting on Instagram and be like, oh, good work, buddy, and head back down. Like I just try and be present, because, as much as I get to spend a lot of time with them compared to people that probably work 9 to 5, I just think that like the time that I've got with him, right now is before they go to school and everything like that is pretty precious.
Yeah.
So that they're probably the three things that I definitely try and do.
Was the move to the Peninsula part of that trying to get away from footy as well?
Yeah. So yeah, I lived in Kew with Jess. We bought a house in Kew when I first got back to Melbourne. We lived there for 3 years, and then COVID hit, basically. Went up to the hub, still had the Kew house. Come back, and then we were going to move out to Casey like 2 times a week. So it was going to be basically like 2 or 3 times a week at Casey, 2 times at Amy Park in the city. And Max, who's Max Gorn, one of my close friends, he was down at Blair Gowrie. And he sort of was in my ear saying, you try to move down to the Peninsula. And I was looking down there, but it's a long way. Like, it's a long way down there. So I thought to myself, no, I don't really like there. But, I don't know, maybe somewhere else. And I was looking in Mount Martha, and I was like, it's still a little bit further than where I'd like to be. And then Mount Eliza came up, and we were looking, and it was literally like every single other person in Victoria had the same idea, because we could not get even like an interview or a scheduled appointment to get in a house. And we were just talking to some lady, and she rings me at 9:30 at night. And I'm like, who is ringing me?
No boundaries.
I was like, far out, who's ringing me? And I answer, and I'm really bad at answering the phone, because a little bit like we spoke about right off the top, is there someone trying to get something off me?
Trying to give you the shits.
I'm like, hello. She's like, hello, is this Jake? And I was like, yeah, who's this? She explained who she was. She's like, you were looking at another house that we had online, but we couldn't get you in. But there's this house. Do you want to come and have a look at it tomorrow morning at 8:30? And I'm like, it's 9:30 at night. My kid's asleep, 8:30. What time do I have to leave? I'm trying to work it out. We had just had Jace. Jace was just starting to sleep through, and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, nah, not really. She was like, oh, okay, no worries. And then me and my wife were talking in bed, and then I was like, actually, let's go. Let's just go have a look. Couldn't find anything online of photos and that, because straight away I typed in the address, looking at photos, nothing. No, couldn't even see it on Google Maps. So I was like, what is happening? So I'll ring her back, and we're like, hey, yeah, we'll come down. And she's like, oh, that's great, no worries. Came down the next morning, fell in love with the rental property, and we're like, oh my God, this is great. End up getting it, amazing that we got it, because as I said, it was very hard to try and get a house. And then from then on, it's just been the best move that I've ever done. And that's not just me, that's my wife, that's my 2 kids. I know they don't know any different, but even my in-laws now are down in Mornington. They lived in Essendon or Keilor, right next to the airport, their whole life for 35 years. It's now they're live in Mornington with us. So it's just been great to be able to move down here. And then it's as you said, it's to get away from footy. It's funny, it's a big drive to the club when we train at Amy, and that's what everyone always says. They're like, oh yeah, but after a game, you drive from the MCG to Mornington, what time do you get home? I'm like, you know what, that is the best time that I have in the car, because it's Hawthorn and that are amazing areas, but it's it's too busy. For me, that's it's not a one size fits all. It's just, for me, I'm just a bit it's too busy for me. And it's that 50 minutes in the car from the MCG to my house is it's the last 25 minutes. I'm I go through Frankston, and I can go one way or I can go the beach way. Every time the beach way. I just go have a look at the beach. See, I just drive along the beach, drive up the hill, and then just keep looking out at the water, and I'm just how lucky am I? And it is a bit of gratitude. It's how good is this? And because I can get into the habit of why do I live so far away from the footy club? It takes me so long to get home.
It's so easy to take it for granted.
Yeah, so last night we left at 4:45 from the footy club. We trained sort of from about 10:30 to 4:45, and 4:45, horrific time to drive on the road. It doesn't matter where you're going. It's a terrible time. But it's last night, even then, I was a bit I just had to keep thinking to myself, you're fine. Look where you're going back to. And the house that, we have is that we end up buying in Mornington, moving from Mount Eliza to Mornington. But it's you're near an amazing cafe, like it's a walk to the beach, like you walk literally to the beach and then walk along the whole way. Like it's like you just have to sometimes have like, the gratitude to that, because it doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world or the poorest. Like if you don't have gratitude, you won't enjoy your life.
You're not going to be happy.
No, like you still really do have to take those moments and live with them, because they are precious. And if you just keep living by what's next, like I'll just lose my mind. Like if I'm thinking like, even right now, like we're eventually going to knock our house down that we're living in at the moment, because it's sort of like an oldish house. And like, that's why we bought it. It's a lovely block from where it is. And then like, as I said, it's almost like, I've always explained it like my grandma's house. Like it's like your grandma's house, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, like sort of small, like, and like me being a big person, like every now and then I feel a bit claustrophobic, but like we end up knocking it down, and everyone always comes like, when are you going to knock it down? And I'm a bit like, I don't even know yet. I just love it.
They're more keen for it than you are.
Yeah, like they're like, when are you going to do it? It's like, oh no, I don't know. Like after my career, I think like that's what my plan is. Like, unless something happens beforehand, like, but like it's funny. Like I've never ever wanted to be that person of like, what's next? What's next? What can I do next? What's going to make me happier next? Because if you don't, like, if you can just live in that moment and be like, this is what we've got right now, it's actually
everything's okay.
Everything's fine.
What is your absolute favourite thing about living in Mornington? Is it the beach? Is it the lifestyle? Is it being away from the city?
My favourite thing to do is to wake up in the morning on my day off, and I walk past Dreamer Cafe, which is right around the corner from my house on Darva Drive, and I get a coffee, usually a sneaky bacon and egg roll.
Yeah, good.
Get my kids a baby Chino or a chocolate milk, depending what mood they're in. Walking down to the beach, and there's like, you walk down the path, and there's a playground there, and every morning I have to convince my son and my daughter that no, every morning we walk past the playground, then we go on the playground on the way back. And they're like, no, every morning. They're like, no, we're going to go on the playground now. No, we have to go on the playground on the way back. And so I walk over the beach, and there's this like bench seat with like 2 benches and a table. And I sort of just look out at the water, and I just admire the water. And so I think that's definitely my favourite part of being in Mornington, that I can just walk straight to the beach. And I never thought I was a beach person growing up in Romsey, which like closest beach would be like an hour and a half away. But I've just learnt to love the water and looking out.
Do you surf?
No, and I will never surf. I'm petrified of deep water. Like,
is it a shark thing?
Shark thing.
Yeah, okay.
Shark thing. Definitely a shark thing. And me and my wife don't help each other, because anytime there's a shark anywhere within, I don't know, 1,000-kilometre radius of us, like we're
even
straight
up in Cairns.
Up in Cairns, we're like, look, told you a shark in the water. It's like, no crap, there's sharks in the water. But I just love going. I do love swimming in the beach. As long as I'm not the
pretty
furthest,
safe in the bay.
Yeah, as long as I'm not the furthest person out. That's my theory, I think. Like, if there's someone out further than me, good luck to you. Yeah, good luck to you. But yeah, like I love the beach. And then also just, the space and going somewhere at 9 o'clock and not having to worry about like how long it's going to take me. Like if I just want to go down to Main Street, like I can just drive there and know that it's going to take me 5 minutes and then 5 minutes back. Or, if I want to go somewhere else, close down to the Peninsula, I know that it's only going to take me a certain amount of time, not having to worry. So, they're definitely my favourite parts of it. And obviously I've got a big block of land, like we're 800 square metres, which in Kew and that, like you're not going to find many under $10 million for 800 square metres. So we've obviously been pretty lucky, but I think they're definitely the favourite things that I love.
What's the best thing that Jason Scarlett have taught you?
Ooh. What has Jace taught me? Oh, I think both kids, like talk about like gratitude. Like the best thing that kids can do is like the joy they have for such like things.
For what we think are little things.
You just think are so little. And And I remember I watched a video on Instagram, or my wife sent me a video on Instagram, and it was a reflection on what you think as a person, the amount of things that you have like going through your mind of like, oh, I've got to work today. How much money do we have to buy groceries? Like there is a 1,000 thoughts a day that you have, thousands and thousands, and worries and everything like that. And there's one thing, like imagine just being a little kid, and my son's 3 years old. Imagine there's one thing in the world that you want, and all it is the attention of your mum or your dad in that moment. And it's like, I always think of that. So it's like, if I'm on my phone and Jace is like, Dad, come play with me. If I don't reflect on that, I'm like, yeah, I will in a minute, mate. Like, and everyone does it. It doesn't matter. Like, if you tell me that you're a parent and you don't do that, you're lying to me, because there's like multiple moments a day where you're like, all right, I'd just love to just sit down on the couch for like 5 minutes here without anyone talking to me. But in the end, it doesn't happen with little kids. And I think that's probably the one thing that they've taught me is it's almost like to be able to take their thoughts of like, they don't care about anything else. They don't care about if the walls are whiter or cream. They don't care about, what we're having for dinner tonight, like until the moment. But it's like all they want is your attention. Like imagine just the whole time you're just like, all you want is my attention. And like for me not to give it to you, like it's just like, oh God, like I can't even think about it now. Like every time I think about it, it's like I'll throw my phone away. I'm like straight into playing it with it. So I think, just what they've taught me is like that. And also the fact that like there's things like my wife yesterday built an aeroplane out of cardboard boxes, and I don't think my son has shut up about it for like 2 days.
Coolest thing ever.
The coolest thing ever. She cut out like cardboard box, little tickets for the plane, and like we're going on a plane trip. Like she's very creative because she's a teacher, and I feel like my kids are pretty lucky with the mum that they've got in terms of the activities that like she does for them and everything. But like cardboard boxes, like it's like honestly, like it's like they were going in the bin when I got home, and now they're probably going to sit in my lounge room for like 5 weeks just being in the aeroplane with the thing.
It's all worth it.
Like, so I think they've just taught me to be grateful for the little things in life.
Yeah. When you put it in that perspective, it makes you realise like, you understand why they sort of crack the shits over what we think are little things. Like that's their whole world.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got one more before we move on to some rapid fire fan questions.
Yep.
Jess, we'll swing back to Jess. What's your favourite thing about her? What she taught you?
I think that she's definitely taught me a lot about parenting, because obviously she dealt with a lot of kids all the time with her teaching.
Is she primary or secondary?
She's primary.
Yeah,
she's primary.
respect that.
So,
couldn't do it myself.
Prep too. So she loved the preps. I think like she's definitely taught me a lot about like the patience with kids, because as I said to you before, like even me saying that Jace can't kick the footy yet, like it's like, come on mate, he's 3 years old, like give him a spell. But I think being in a professional sport environment, you're always like, like I'm trying to teach him and he can't learn, and I'm like looking at him like,
are you fucking serious?
I'm like, are you joking me, mate? Like, I'm teaching you how to do it and you're not listening. And then he just walks off. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, and I get frustrated. But like, I'm not a very angry person. You ask anyone, like, I don't really get angry all too often. But, like, she can sense my frustration. So, like, little things like teaching me that. But I think that what I spoke about before in terms of her just allowing me to do things that I want to do in terms of anything that's going to help my career, like she just allows me to do. I think it's taught me to actually do that to other people too. So like whether that's my son, like, I would love Jace to play football, but if he doesn't want to play football, like that's not the be all and end all. And Scarlett is the same. Like I would love Scarlett to, be a netballer for Australia. Like that's like, any parent wants your daughter or son to succeed, but just actually, giving them the tools and actually allowing them to be able to do that, I think is definitely one thing Jess has taught me. But she's definitely taught me how to be romantic too.
Yeah.
And how important Mother's Day.
Were you not a romantic before?
Oh, no. No. I never thought about anyone other than myself, I think, before I met Jess. She spoils me rotten on my birthday. And I always I always have to try and not do better, but I'm always really Mother's Day. I'm sure if this comes out, Jess won't want to listen to me for an hour and a half. She always listens to me anyway. But Mother's Day, I've had to try and plan so much. I printed out a menu the other day of what's for breakfast, and it's if this was me 5 years ago, I was not doing that.
Is gifts your love language?
No, it's definitely hers though.
Yeah,
definitely hers. Yeah, do you have to have the same one?
No, I think it's actually not that I'm a fucking love guru. I think it's ideal to have not the same one.
I think hers is definitely gifts. I think mine's what they do for me.
Words of affirmation or
nah? It's there's gifts and then there's another one.
Yep.
And it's similar to gifts, but it's what. So it's almost like chores. I enjoy when I get home from footy training, her cooking dinner, and I sort of just roll in.
Acts of service or something.
Acts of service, that's what it is. Acts of service. Or little things if I need a new drink bottle, instead of me going from training, going to get a drink bottle, I'd love to come home and she's got the drink bottle for me, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think she's definitely taught me how to, buy gifts and that because, I think growing up, you don't really buy gifts for anyone. I've never seen anyone in my whole entire life get more enjoyment about buying gifts for other people than my wife. And all our friends talk about it. Every time they've got a birthday, I'll just sort of be oh, happy birthday. Give them a Bunnings gift card or something like that. Whereas Jess has thought about this present and bought it. So I think that's definitely something else that she's taught me how to treat someone that you love and give them gifts. And in the end, even Mother's Day, I'm actually excited for Mother's Day. Whereas my first Mother's Day for her, I was oh no, what am I doing? I'm so nervous. I don't know what to get her. What am I doing? Whereas now, it's I'm actually excited to be able to, because you can see the enjoyment out of the face. It's like the kids, you see the enjoyment and you like to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to one day be the person that can give good gifts to people that deserve it. My dad's got a Bunnings gift card for probably the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of Jess, your wedding, did you have BT at your wedding?
Yes.
Roaming BT?
Yeah, BT's a family friend. So Harry, his son, I actually played Calder Cannons with, and they lived in Riddles Creek, and I lived in Romsey. So they lived on a farm, and we used to drive Harry home from training when BT was as busy as he is. So yeah, he came to my wedding, and it only happened real late. I was sort of a bit who do we want to MC? And I ended up getting the balls to ask him. And as the man that he is, he was all for it, and he was very excited. Did his research, and he did a bit of roaming Brian, which was possibly, other than Jess walking down the aisle, was probably my favourite moment of the night. Yeah, it was great.
Got a handful on this list of fan questions that have just responded to the story that I whacked up on Insta. Actually, I've got one here that I didn't want to forget about first. So firstly, I'm just going to do some teammate word association. I've got 10 words here. First teammate that comes to your mind. Not allowed to think. Just first one that comes to your mind. Funny. You're thinking.
Jake Melksham.
Bizarre.
Clayton Oliver.
In what way?
In every way. He's just a unit.
Snags.
Bailey Fritz.
Yep. Beast.
Track.
White line fever.
Jack Viney.
Any white line fever stories from Jack Viney?
Oh, he's just...
Or he's just a maniac?
Yeah, he's got small man syndrome too, so he hasn't got a great combination. Yeah, he's just an angry man when he walks onto the field, and no real stories. Another person would be Maisie. He's obviously, you've seen some white line fever from him.
Oh, yeah. Positivity.
Positivity would be Alex Neil-Bullen.
Reliable.
Stephen May.
Young gun.
Judd McPhee.
Veteran, last one.
Michael Hibbard.
Yeah, good.
He will hate that I said that.
Got a handful here from the audience. First one, speaking of Macy, from Ben Ressenberger. Would you rather 1v1 Pig or May?
I'd rather Pig.
Why?
Would I rather play on Pig or would I rather...
Just 1v1, so I don't know if that's in a biff or...
Yeah, I hope it's not in a biff.
Or like on the footy field, I don't know.
On the footy field, who would I rather verse is... I'd rather verse Pig because Maisie would just grab me and I wouldn't be able to move. I feel like I'd be able to hopefully try and get around Pig. Biff.
That's from Dave Ryan for you.
Thank you.
Mate. That. I don't think I want to fight either of them. Yeah, 1v1. I don't want to fight either of them.
Fair enough. The scary men.
Oh, both of them.
What do you love about James Jordon from Lockie Kennett?
What do I love about James Jordon? I love that his little smirk when he thinks that he made a really funny joke to you, but it's not funny at all. So he as I said before, he was my first child that I had at my house. So, yeah, we've got some fond memories, me and JJ. And, it's funny, because every time you have someone live in your house for a week, even though it's only a week, you just get to know him so much more. And, he's an absolute champion and on the field, just so reliable in everything he does. But, yeah, he thinks he's funny sometimes, but he's
not a funny man.
No.
Yeah. When it's all said and done, would you consider a move to the MPNFL, in particular, Frankston YCW?
No.
Not Frankston YC.
Not Frankston. No, to be honest, I don't want to play local footy when I'm finished because I just, imagine me going to play local footy. One, I'm not playing in defence. I'm playing at full forward. Yep. And imagine, blokes just heckling me from the goal square. I go and watch local footy a little bit and, to see the ex-AFL players, what they cop. I just think to myself, you know what? I don't really want to achieve that.
Jared Grant's running around in the MPNFL for Frankston Bombers, and I think, why would you do it?
Yeah, not
interested. You're putting a target on your head. From Tess Rowley and Dave Ryan, you are a country music man, which is, to my disappointment. We've had a few conversations about that on the gym floor.
Yes, we have.
What's your favourite country song? My
favourite country song right now would be Five Leaf Clover from Luke Combs. All time, Hunting, Fishing Every Day from Luke Bryan's good. Luke Bryan? So three massive artists I've got is Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, and Luke Bryan would be the third one. So anything from there, and I'm just I
can appreciate some Luke Combs. When It Rains It Pours by Luke Combs is our theme
I'm actually
song.
seeing Luke Combs in August here. So we recently there's probably 3 or 4 that love country music. So me, Clayton Oliver, Cade Chandler, and Harry Petty went to see Morgan Wallen when he was here. Again, unbelievable night. It was absolutely amazing. So he was at Rod Laver, phenomenal. Again, you're talking about, that you're not a massive fan of country music. And I actually thought that that was a large majority of people. I thought there was only a small circle of country music. Rod Laver, literally, it was so packed. I'm this guy's
there's a lot of closet, country music enthusiasts, and then, which I wouldn't have picked.
But then they're not closet when they get there. They've got bloody boots on and cowboys hats, and I'm looking at them I just had
Is that you, or do you just?
Nah, I just had a bit of a flannel on, and I was sort of trying to fit in, and I was I couldn't believe the outfits that were coming on. I was gee whiz, this is right into it.
Who's got the worst music taste at the club when they get on the tunes, in the gym or whatever?
Yeah, look, everyone would probably say me because it's either country, and as I said, there's only 4 or 5 of us, or my other favourite band or just genre is Nickelback. Nickelback is I just go straight. If I've got the speaker, it's Nickelback.
I can get around Nickelback, and I think people only hate Nickelback because it's a pylon.
Yeah,
they don't actually hate Nickelback.
Definitely, every time I'm on the music, Nickelback, and to be honest, it's only really the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that sort of like, oh, what's this song?
It's the cool
like,
thing
like,
to hate Nickelback.
Whereas like when you're like 30 or like, 25, 26, 27 in the group, like, because we do it with like Defenders. So the Defenders, there's like a little bit of a mix, and then everyone loves the Nickelback, but all the young kids are like, what's this song? Whereas
they'll come around.
But it's funny because I listen to their music and I think to myself, this is terrible. Like, what is this song? Like, it doesn't even have any words. Like, but they love it. So, like, who's got the worst music taste? It just depends who you're asking. Because if you ask Kay Chandler who's got the best music taste, you'd say me. But, like, if you ask Christian Petrarca, he'd be like someone else. So it's like, it's funny that I can't handle music with no words. It doesn't really do it for
highly
me.
subjective. Like, for me, as long as it's not like death metal screamo shit,
Yeah.
I'm not too fussy.
Yeah,
Not too,
definitely.
like, even with country, I can get around it. A lot of rogue ones, a lot of ones about mustaches. Does the mustache hold secret powers? Mustache care routine. How does...
No mustache care routine, if you believe it or not. Like, literally, I don't even trim it. Like, I think it's kind of gross, but sometimes, like, when I'm nervous, I think I, like, bite it and it must, like, trim the sides or something. I don't really know, but
Takes care of itself.
I just honestly, I've never touched this since I've grown it, and
impressive.
it's like 4 years. So obviously I have to shave my beard, but never ever had to. Yeah, like, doesn't even hang over my lip. That's what people kept asking me, like, how doesn't it grow? I was like, I don't actually know why it doesn't.
I was doing a Google image search to get you so I could put you on my story and promote the podcast, and I saw a picture of you without a mo, and it fucking freaked me out. But it was unnerving. Like, are you prepared for when you do eventually shave it that your kids aren't going to recognise you, or they're going to cry? Or
I think they won't recognise me. They'll be like, what the hell is that? Because I've shown Jace photos of me without one. And I'm like, who's this? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh God, it's really... But it's funny because I reckon I'm about 8 out of 10 people say never ever shave your mustache off. But then there's the 2 out of 10 every now and then and be like, oh man, you look so young with your mustache. Why don't you shave it off? Like, so it's funny. There was a photo actually, or there was like this poster at Casey Fields, and it was me at a place called Bungill Place in like near Casey. We did a clinic there. And the poster was like community, and I was like around 2 kids with the footy jumper, and I had no mustache. And one of the days, it's always there. It's always just sitting there. It's been there for like 5 years. And like, there's a few comments every now and then about it. And I said to one of the young kids his first year, I was like, oh, what about that? What do you think about that with no mustache? And he turned around, he's like, what?
I don't get it.
He's like, I don't understand what you're saying. I was like, look, like, no mustache. He's like, who is that? And I was like looking at him, I was like, that's me. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, mate, I promise you, that's me. And he's like, oh my God, it is you. And so it's like, it must be a real, I get noticed way more with it. I think that's what, like, when I didn't have it, it was sort of like people might see me and be like, hey, that looks like that guy that plays footy. And then be like, oh no, probably not. The best one I've ever had with my mustache is a kid walked past me, and he was about 6 or 7, and he had a Brisbane jumper on, and he's like, he said something, and he said something like sort of to his dad next door, and his dad looked at me, he goes, oh, how funny is that? He thought you were a footy player. He thought you were Joe Danaher. And I just kept walking, and my wife was just losing it. And I was like, oh, yeah, he thought I was a footy player. That's funny. And I just kept walking, and he was like, yeah, thought you were a footy player. Thought you were Joe Danaher. And I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, so I do get noticed much more with it.
It's like, I guess it's like the Maxi Gorn bald head and beard. Like, it just makes you a bit more distinct.
Yes, it does. It does.
Last one from the fans, and you can feel free to go as deep or don't go into it as deeply as you want. When was the last time you cried or felt overwhelmed emotionally?
Ooh. I cried both times my kids were born, which I never thought I would. Like, I think that, not that I'm not an emotional person. I think that when I think of emotional people, I think of my wife, because she cries every time there's something happen bad on her TV show. And it's a bit of a joke between us that we're always like, she's like, oh, I'm crying again, and like nothing's happened on my TV show. But I just never thought I would. And then as soon as Jace was born, like, I cried, and then Scarlett was the same thing. So Obviously, they're happy tears, and you're just like overwhelmed with the amount of emotion that you've got at that time. But I don't know, like it. As I said, like I try and look at the positive out of a lot of things. I haven't really I've been quite lucky. I haven't had a lot of death in my family or anything like that. So my grandpa passed away, and so did my nan. But that was sort of when I was like 15 or 16. But since then, it's probably just been when the kids were born, or I think I might have shed a tear when I snapped my plantar fascia, because it was probably that at that point of like, God, like it just, I'd gotten through a lot of the stuff, and then it happened, and then it was like I was sitting there for 3 months training my ass off, and then 3 days before round one, I snap it, and I was like, gee whiz. And I actually ended up having some time off, and I had like, it would have been a week. Like I couldn't come into the footy club. I was a bit like defeated. There's a little bit going on outside of football for me that wasn't great too. So like I wasn't really motivated to come into the footy club. And it's funny because I think it's coming out more and more that people are beginning to be able to talk about it, their mental health. And, we've had a few people this year at our footy club, either have time off or just mention it. And it's funny that once you actually do mention it, the amount of respect and then therefore like care that those people do get. And I think it's just so brave that people can talk about it, because, I think that it is such a hard topic to talk about if your mental health isn't at the standard that you want it to be. And being at a footy club, like the stigma is like, or the perception is, and it really pisses me off sometimes that, well, what are you injured about mental health? You get paid well, you play footy for a living and all this. And like, it really frustrates me because it's a really hard job physically, yes, but mentally as well. Like it's, when you're not playing well, not only are you disappointed in yourself, the coaches are probably writing you about things. You reflect all the time on the things that you do in your life. Like if I rock, and this is no disrespect to any other job, but if like my mates, right, they get pissed on a Sunday night, they go out, have a few beers, they rock up Monday morning and they're an apprentice carpenter. The worst thing they could do is probably shoot themselves in the hand with a nail gun, but they're not really going to, like, they could probably go under the radar, and I know that some of them have done this. They go under the radar and get through the Monday.
It's easy to push through a Monday.
Easy to push through. Whereas, like, if we go out Sunday night, Monday, like, we got training and we got to perform. And, like, I'm not saying that alcohol, you need alcohol to reset and that, but it's like you don't really have that opportunity to be able to do that. And it doesn't have to just be that you're hungover. I'm talking like you've got so many different personalities that when someone that is up and about, enthusiastic, so full of energy, and they come in on a Monday and at their mental health, they might just be like, oh man, just like there's a lot of things that have been going on in my life. I haven't been playing great football. I had a fight with my girlfriend last night, and you come in Monday, like you notice it so much more because you're there to perform, and one, they can't perform at the level they can, but two, like they're just not giving the same energy and vibe that they normally do. So then it's like, how do you approach that as well? Like, but I'm so proud of definitely our footy club on how they actually do that and the care that they give for people, because in the end, like you can only perform great and, probably win premierships with happy people. And I think it's funny because I think the last 2 years, the best two teams off field and the ones that have been mentally like at their best are the ones that won the grand final. Like Geelong last year, you could tell that like they were just living their life. Like Jeremy Cameron, like living on the farm, and Tom Hawkins, you could just tell that they were just like so free in their life outside of football, and then on the field they just like were performing. They were in flow, and we were like that the year before 2021. We went to the hub, but we actually really made sure that we saw the hub as an opportunity and how good's this. And I think the wives even had a little bit of a pack to be able to feel that too. So like I'd talk to my Jess, and she was just pumped. Like she's like, oh no, everything's fine back home. Like everything's great. How's Perth? Like pumping it up. And it wasn't until I got home she was like, oh my God, there was a lot going on back here. Like Scarlett wasn't sleeping. She had to be held to sleep all night. Like we were lucky enough that Jess's mum was around the corner. So like, you know, she come and live with Jess for the time that I was gone. But it's funny that like, yeah, the best team mentally and free in the mind of definitely like stress and everything like that end up winning the grand final. And they might have had things going on at Geelong and even at our footy club that I didn't know about. But when you get to the footy club, every day you get to feel that vibe, and you can sense if blokes are flat or the team flat or something like that. So, it is definitely such an important part of football these days, but it's equally as important in life outside. You can see like mental health. It's definitely being talked about a lot more, and I think it's such a valid point and such a valid conversation to be able to have, because in the end, like, you're only as good as how healthy you are mentally.
So how do you pick a teammate up that is a bit flat?
Oh, good question. I think it's different for each person because some people you do need to sort of let them not vent, but like you can sense that that they just sort of don't want to be talked to. And as I said, like, we put a lot of resources and time into ours. So we've got a psychologist, we've got a PDM, which is a player development manager, Reece Conker. Used to play at Richmond, and then obviously at Freo, and he's a freak. Like, he's so good. He's an amazing person to have at the footy club. And our psychologist, Steve, he's amazing. And then we've got two doctors, Laura and Jacob, like, who are equally as good as both of those people in terms of managing mental health. They've seen a lot of things. They've been involved in the footy club a long time. So we've got a lot of resources around it. But I guess then the most important point is that then the coaches and the players back that stuff up. So you can have a psychologist say that, Tyler's having a tough day, that he needs to have the next 2 or 3 days off. But, Goody as the coach comes and goes, nah, mate, he's training tomorrow. I don't care how mentally he is. Like, that's not at all our footy club. Like, Goody's is supportive, and so is his team of coaches, to be able to give players time off or whatever they need at the time. So, yeah, for me, I think that it's just pointing those guys in the right direction, because some guys deal with it all the time, and some it might be like brand new. So you actually might have to sort of push those guys towards potentially the psychologist or the doctor or whoever it is. So, yeah, I think it's just really individualized. And, I guess as a player that I've been there for a long time, and I feel like my relationships with guys are good. Like, you genuinely know what's going on with them. So a player might walk in, he might be flat, and you know that there's been something happening either at home or outside of footy that maybe it just flared up again, and he needs a bit of a chop out or just a tap on the bum and say, mate, you're all right, like, everything all good, you want to talk about it. So I think it's just actually, getting to know people, because if you fire blokes up or you'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you? What are you doing, you sook, or something like that? It can actually really, I could imagine that there'd be some arguments and some...
Yeah, you're fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's definitely an important point to take everyone individual.
Yeah, I guess like every business almost, it's a relationship building business, and the most successful ones are the ones that can foster really strong and healthy relationships.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely relationship based now. Like, that's what coaches are realistically.
Yeah.
You talk about like good coaches tactically and everything like that. It's like, can he give a good rev up or something? It's like, mate, I'm telling you, Goody is purely like it's almost like his whole role, or 90% of it is relationship. Yes, he's got the way that we play, the team that he picks, everything like that. But even those two things, the way that we play, blokes are only going to play that way if you have a good relationship with them and then they do believe in what you're doing. Like, the team that you pick, like, in the end, it's like the team gets picked because Goody has a good relationship with those players that are playing. It's funny that everything just revolves, as you said, back to relationships.
I'll make this the last one because I do have to go and coach shortly. Favourite thing about Goody?
Favourite thing about Goody is I think that he's developed so much in terms of, I reckon when I first got to the footy club, as every new coach I think does, wants to control everything, whereas the footy club goes out and gets the best people for that role. So whether it's the strength coach, high performance manager, assistant coach, whatever it is, they're going out to get the best. So why would then Goody take over that person's role and say, no, you need to do it like this? So the best thing that I've noticed about Goody is obviously his relationships, but then his ability to let go and let the people do what they do best and what they specialise in. And I think that's what successful clubs have, even like Geelong. Like you can see there, like Chris Scott's a coach, but like it's like he's never there. Like he's like, you can see that like everyone else just plays their role and they can they specialise in something, and therefore that's what they do. And the coach has got to have the ability to just let go. So they're the two things that I think that he's best at, is his relationships and then his ability to let people thrive in what they do.
Love it. I could sit here for another 2 hours and just chat with you, mate. It's been phenomenal. Awesome to finally get you on.
Thank you.
We spoke injuries before. Little did the public know, you actually nearly suffered a potentially career-ending injury here at the hands of one of our members. Do you know what I'm referring to or alluding to?
No.
Maybe you don't know about it, but one of our members, Dave Ryan, the bread man, carrying a barbell on his shoulder, swung around, and I wasn't here at the time, but apparently centimetres from taking your head clean off your shoulders.
That's all right. I would have just copped it on the chin and just walked away with it.
Walked away. But I'm guessing here, it says on the bag, Chef Dave Ryan, this is for you. He's baked you some beautiful Turong Farm sourdough bread for you to take home to the kids. It's phenomenal. Probably the best sourdough bread on the Peninsula, mate.
Yes. Is he the chef there?
Yeah, he is.
Wow, that's huge.
So
I need to talk to him. I'm trying to find bagels. I wonder if they do bagels at Turong Farm. I'll ask him on the way out.
He might be here, so he'd be one to ask on your way out, mate.
Beautiful.
But we don't have the footy show big prize pack, but you got some sourdough bread from Dave Ryan, mate. Any local Mornington Peninsula businesses you want to pump up before we go?
I love my local cafe, Dreamer Cafe. Ben, I think you might have asked a question there, Benny. Ben Rosenberg, is that?
Oh, Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Rosenberg.
Did he ask a bit of a question? He thinks he's funny. Benny, no, he's obviously runs a great cafe right around the corner from me. Obviously, Virtus, like Virtus. Okay. I love this place. Like right off the top, as I was talking about, like it's one of my favourite places to come. And yeah, that's about it really. I just like to keep it local. I don't venture too far out. Like I'm very like here. I haven't found a good footy oval around here yet though. Like there's one around the corner, but I normally go down to Rye Footy Oval because that's a good deck. That's a good deck. So usually do my off-season training there. But as I said, I'm pretty locally just stuck to Dreamer Cafe.
Well, if you want to trek up the mountain to Red Hill, I hear that's a pretty good footy club up there.
Really? Yeah. You'll have me after my career if I just want to coach. I don't want to play because you'll try and take me out or something like that. No, definitely. I actually do like the Red Hill Footy Oval. That's right across the road from one of my favourite restaurants, actually, Red Gum Barbecue.
Oh.
Yes.
Mate, we didn't even talk about meat.
I'm a
big meat man.
Know. Massive. Yeah, I'm a big meat man. I can't eat steak close to the game at the minute, though. Feel a bit heavy. So
yeah, okay. Well, Tommy McDonald has
I don't know
pre-game meal, doesn't he?
He's like, lunch, like 2 500-gram steaks. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but I don't know how he doesn't feel heavy, but especially running around. If you're just doing it on the go, it's fine. But Red Gum Barbecue is definitely one of my favourites.
Yeah, phenomenal place. Good mac and cheese.
Great mac and cheese, definitely. Cornbread, unbelievable too.
Simply the best. Been awesome to have you on, mate. I'm going to get coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks,
Appreciate
mate.
your time so much.
No worries. Thank you.